The Hasselblad XPan is a legendary and very expensive film camera that can produce cinematic panoramic images. Some digital cameras can't shoot in the panoramic aspect ratio, but what if I told you that there is a digital Hasselblad XPan alternative that you can get for a 1/10 of the price of an XPan? Stick around to see our selection of digital alternatives to a Hasselblad XPan. When I told our resident photographer Ian the idea for this video, he exclaimed, "Why are video people so obsessed with the XPan?" And I must admit, sometimes we just are. You've gotta love those widescreen cinematic images that just look like stills taken from a movie. And the Hasselblad XPan is one of the very few cameras that can produce these kinds of images. But it stopped being produced a long time ago, and the prices of those cameras are just going up. So many people are looking into alternative solutions, and looking amongst digital cameras is a great option. First of all, some of these alternatives are much cheaper than the original XPan. None of them use actual film, and don't get me started on prices of a roll of film these days. And they are digital, so you see the image straight away, you can manipulate it on the computer, and generally benefit from the wonders of modern digital technology. Let's change the scenery, and I will tell you all about the magic of the Hasselblad XPan first, and then we'll move on to the alternatives. In 1998, Fujifilm and Hasselblad collaborated to create a camera which was sold under two names, so Fujifilm TX1 or the Hasselblad XPan. The unique feature of this camera is that it can take the regular 35mm photos, but it can also take the wide panoramic images, and it does that without masking the film, so without sacrificing any of the image quality. It is basically a medium format camera using a 35mm film. In recent years, the resurgence of film photography has caused the prices of film cameras to rise, and the Hasselblad XPan has been no exception. A pricey camera even when it was released. It's unaffordable for many photographers these days. To make matters worse, some say this camera is like a ticking bomb. Once it breaks, and we're talking 20-something-year-old camera, it's really hard to repair it. That's why many people are looking for other ways of recreating the XPan experience. There are some DIY and rather clunky solutions, like using a regular camera with an external monitor and a CinemaScope mask on it, or physically masking the LCD screen, or stitching a panorama in post, or even using an anamorphic lens. But this is not what we are looking for today. The point is to have a reliable, convenient solution, so a camera with the panoramic mode built in with a real-time preview, so we don't have to guess the composition or carry around an external monitor. Let's move on to our first digital Hasselblad XPan alternative. Sigma DP0 Quattro is a compact fixed lens camera which allows us to take pictures in close to XPan 21:9 aspect ratio. The Sigma DP Quattro line consists of 4 models, which are basically the same camera, but with different focal lengths. They all share the same APS-C-sized Foveon sensor, which is built a little bit differently from the most popular CMOS sensor we use these days. Some claim that nothing beats a Foveon sensor when it comes to color reproduction or resolution, and that can even rival some of the medium format cameras. You can buy a used Sigma Quattro camera for 1/8 or even 1/10 of a price of a Hasselblad XPan, and that's not even counting the long-term cost of buying, developing and scanning film. The Sigma DP0 Quattro reminds me of shooting an XPan not only because it's panoramic crop mode, it's also a little bit slow and clunky for a digital camera. Anything above ISO 400, let's say, it's fairly grainy and its features are quite limited. After being a Sony user for many years now, I went through Sigma's buttons and menu options and thought to myself, "Ooh, is that it?" Another thing is you have to process the raw X3F files coming from the Sigma using the Sigma Photo Pro software, which again is so slow that it almost reminds me of developing a negative. But I must say, I deeply enjoyed using this quirky little camera. It forced me to slow down, be more creative and just more present while taking an image. I wouldn't buy it for commercial work as it's a camera that can't do everything, unlike my Sony a7 III. But it's a special little camera that pushed me out of my comfort zone and reminded me that taking pictures can be just fun. If it only had a built-in viewfinder and a better LCD screen, but hey, it costs a fraction of an XPan price. Next up is the Fujifilm GFX 50R. It has a medium format 50 megapixel sensor, which even in the XPan 65x24 panoramic crop mode will give you a healthy 25 megapixel resolution files. It will be enough for a decent sized print and more than enough for an online presentation. I'm using the GFX 50R as an example here, but bear in mind that all of the other GFX series cameras, they all have the 65x24 XPan crop modes. And if you pick up, for example, a GFX 100, even in the crop mode, it will give you a stunning 50 megapixel resolution file. What's more, the Fujifilm cameras come with the famous Fujifilm's film simulation modes, so you can have both the XPan crop and a specific look, and even graying already baked into the image. Shooting JPEG basically means that your photos are ready to be published straight away. If you don't like spending hours editing your images, well, you don't have to. There are two more things that make this Fujifilm camera quite an amazing Hasselblad XPan alternative. First of all, you can use a third-party adapter to mount original XPan lenses on it. And second, as the original XPan was in fact a Fujifilm camera, the retro-inspired look of this Fujifilm GFX 50R doesn't look miles away from the look of the original XPan. Last but not least, the most expensive of the cameras I have with me today, and it's the Hasselblad X1D-50c. It has a 50 megapixel medium format sensor, and what's unique about this camera, it's really small for a camera with such a big sensor. Hasselblad achieved it by pushing the shutter mechanism out into the lenses. It's called leaf shutter, and it means that this camera can achieve flash sync speeds not achievable with the conventional plain shutter mechanism. It also greatly reduces any shake when the camera is taking a picture. It has a similar or even the same sensor as the Fujifilm GFX 50R, so the performance in terms of resolution, noise and so on is almost identical. The differences lie in handling, lenses and image processing. You could say it's a studio camera and a portable body. Although it shoots both JPEGs and RAW, the JPEGs are just 12 megapixel previews, so you have to process the RAW files in order to get a usable image. Also, there are no built-in color profiles with the X1D-50c. The idea behind the Hasselblad image processing is that it captures images that are as close to reality as possible, and you can adjust them to your preference in post, not in the camera. But of course, the most important feature for us is the 65x24 crop mode, which is actually called XPan crop in this camera. It's quite a slow camera to operate. When turning it on, it reminds me a little bit of a cine camera, so instead of quickly turning on, it takes a few seconds to boot up. It can be annoying at times, but overall it adds to the experience of using a film-like camera and slowing down while you're taking pictures. And it feels good in the hand, and does look good, doesn't it? Of course, it is a Hasselblad, so you can buy a genuine Hasselblad adapter to mount the original XPan lenses on it. That was our choice of digital alternatives to the Hasselblad XPan. So the Sigma DP0 Quattro, the Fujifilm GFX 50R and the Hasselblad X1D-50c. Do you know of any other cameras that can shoot images like the XPan? Or maybe you think that just nothing beats the original? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to MPB's YouTube channel. See you next time.